Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the show. It is me, Chris, and of course, that's Jimmy.
What's up?
Chilling. All right, man. NFL playoff day.
Yep, it's go time.
Um, it is go time. For those of you who don't know, Jimmy's an Eagles fan, so there is, hope and faith in his heart today that they
Yeah,
can beat the Commanders. Then the other
I've
game.
I've never been probably like a classic Philly fan that's like overconfident and thinks we're the best team ever. I'm always pretty much skeptical, and just hope for the best, but we'll see.
Well, we're
I
gonna take
think
them. We're gonna take them game by game. Um, obviously there's only two games, but what do you think about all this about the NFL being rigged to basically what's the word I want to use to dictate the outcomes of games and to
I mean,
dictate the outcome of who's in the Super Bowl and who wins the Super Bowl?
some calls here and there and some outcomes make it seem like very unlikely or seem like they just want to play or have some control. But honestly, especially with the NFL, I think of all the sports,
Mm-hmm.
the NFL is where of the major sports, the NFL is where I think it would be less likely or least likely to be rigged, mainly because the other sports they have multi-game series, so
Mm-hmm.
there's huge incentive for games to go 6 and 7 games
Sure,
because
money
they
wise.
absolutely money wise. So I don't think that incentive exists in the NFL. Um, and it is what it is. I mean, I think we would see maybe a team would have played in their home stadium for the Super Bowl. Probably, I think that would be somewhere on the script,
Mm-hmm.
right? If that was going to happen. So yeah, yes, things happen that seem like come on, man. But I don't know. I think there's enough. It's so difficult to actually orchestrate that, and I think everybody, the people that would be involved, I don't
Right.
think any.
Somebody would run their mouth
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
the
So
right amount of money. But you see the things like last week where you see the two love taps that Patrick Mahomes got that both got flags, and then you see the actual like in your face hit that Jared Goff got, and no flag, no call. I do find it interesting, and I do think that the NFL is hearing what the fan base is saying, because they the referee for today's game, the how is it, his record in Kansas City games? Kansas City is 5-11,
mm,
and he throws like 58% of the flags that he throws are against the home team.
mm. I mean, that's within the range. That certainly doesn't show bias for a home team, right?
Right.
Um, but that should be about 50-50. Will there be a variance there? Sure. So I think that's in the range. So seems pretty good that is not somebody that they're picking to
Right.
be an overly
The
favorable.
Bills, and I might have this number wrong, but I think the Bills are like 7-2 with this guy as referee.
Okay. Well, I
So
think I think Josh Allen is 0-3 in the playoffs
yeah,
against Mahomes.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's. I mean, I didn't realize that they had that many opportunities to
Hmm.
play against each other in the playoffs already in such a short time span for both of them.
Well,
So
I think the last 3 years, to be honest with you, they've played at least two of them.
yeah, so for that game, um, same thing. I think we're going to see a Bills. I'm going to go ahead and throw my prediction out there: Bills Eagles Super Bowl.
Hmm.
I think both teams are going to be very hard to overcome, even if they stumble a little bit here and there. Yes, the Chiefs find ways to win. They're obviously they haven't scored 30 points in a game all season.
No, they're
Uh,
in the bottom. They're in the bottom third of offenses in the NFL this year.
and it's only a
But
matter of
they've
time
won
before
every
it
game
bites
but
them.
one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it'll bite them, and I think their day is coming because I think this will be the strongest team they've played. Um, yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think do you think that the Eagles Commanders game is going to be close, or do you think it's going to be a blowout?
No, I think it'll definitely be close. I mean, so they've already played each other twice this year. They're 1-1 against each other, and of course, Jalen Hurts didn't play in the second game. But honestly, he is not what I would call an X factor this season because
Right.
he really has only managed games. He's managed games. He's not impressed anybody all season. He's probably pretty safe with the ball. He's not causing a lot of turnovers, but he is causing the offense to not progress and not get touchdowns because he takes way too many sacks, takes too long to make a decision. So yeah, I think ultimately, so it's going to be a pretty comfortable game. Saquon Barkley is going to do well as usual. But I think they're just going to control the game. So if it may be a shootout, if anything,
Mm-hmm.
if Jaden Daniels kind of just gets hot and the Eagles can't get to him, but really the Eagles have a very strong defensive line. They have a very strong secondary. They have a very strong offensive line, and then they obviously have a bunch of weapons. So like it's too many of those facets of the game are going to have to be won by the Commanders. I don't know if I've been saying Redskins, whatever. That it's going to be too much for them to overcome. And so, yeah, they may win one of those here and there, but I don't see the Eagles turning the ball over very much, and that's going to be their only chances if they can force a bunch of turnovers against the Eagles.
Hmm. I'm I'm on the fence on the Eagles Commanders game. I don't. I feel like the Eagles should win.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is everyone's been saying that against every team that's played against the Commanders over the last 8 weeks. So
Yeah.
it's certainly not a count them out thing for me, and they could certainly pull it off. I think that for the Eagles, it really comes down to how effective and what kind of game Saquon has. If Saquon has just one of his monster games, nobody's going to beat him.
Well, his rushing line is 130 yards today.
Yeah.
So, and I couldn't take the under on that. I wouldn't bet against it.
Yeah, no.
It's hard.
No, because he's been a beast. He's been a beast all season, and he's been healthy all season. That's the key.
He is going strong for all the yards and all the games he's playing. Yeah, for sure. So he just seems like he has endless energy. Absolutely.
As far as the Bills Kansas City goes, I think the Bills win it. I think the Bills win it by. I think they win it by at least 12. KC's got a good defense, but Josh Allen, I think Josh Allen has something to prove. And unlike Lamar Jackson, who just cannot perform when he needs to, I think Josh Allen is going to show his ass today.
I think so too. I think they're gonna score a lot, and I think it's going to be too much for the Chiefs to overcome on defense. And no amount of referee bad calls, I think, are going to give them that edge. That's why I do think it might be closer. I think there will be some things go in the Chiefs' favor to keep it close. But other than that, I think they're going to have a really hard time stopping the Bills from scoring.
Yep. And so my Super Bowl prediction is going to be Bills Eagles, but will not be shocked if the Commanders pull it out.
I'm right there with you. I actually agree. Last week on paper, the Lions were going to dominate the Redskins, or the Commanders, but I put my money where my mouth is, and I bet on the Commanders to win that game, and sure enough, they did. So, I like to pull for them. They're an underdog team. It would be nice to see them go to the Super Bowl, but I
Well,
don't
I
want to.
actually hate pulling for either one of them because they're both NFC East teams, and I'm a
Yeah.
Giants fan, so I wish all four of them. If the Giants aren't in the playoffs, I wish all four of them fall miserably. But
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've never felt that bad about the Commanders Redskins because
nah,
they're the home team and they haven't been good since the early '90s when they won the Super Bowl in '91. So it hasn't been you can't hate them.
right?
I don't know, but I always dislike the Cowboys. The Giants have just never been much of a problem for us. So
Not in the last decade.
no, no. So yeah, it's definitely it's going to be a fun game to watch, and I'll be happy to. I'll pull for whoever wins the Commanders Eagles game today in the Super Bowl.
Well, I think that if the Bills win today, I think the Bills win the Super Bowl. I don't think it matters who they
I think
play.
you're right. They will be super strong if
Yeah.
they go into this game. They've been strong all season playoffs, and if they get a win today, it'll be another strong victory. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think that's going to be a tough one. Whoever will play against them will be the underdog.
Yeah,
Um,
for
yeah.
sure. But
So
underdog teams have a tendency. I mean, I look back at the Giants in when was the last time they won the Super Bowl? Oh, against Tom Brady when they were, that was the perfect season uh,
spoiler, yeah.
bid, and they were, they had a 9-7 record going into the
Mhm.
playoffs, and then they made it all the way through the playoffs, and they get in the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl pressure, playoff pressure is one thing, but Super Bowl pressure is a completely different thing. So, how many of your guys have been there before? How are they? Are they over? Typically what happens is you get all these guys who have never been in a Super Bowl, and they want to perform. They want to perform so well, so badly, that they end up having
Yeah.
the worst game of their careers because they're so amped up and they want to. So there's a lot that goes into that. It'd be interesting to look after these games today at which teams have. You could say the same thing about Josh Allen. He everyone's the pressure's on him to win a Super Bowl for Hall of Fame bid and all these other things.
Yeah.
um, and when he gets into the Super Bowl, how does he perform in that environment, which is much different?
I think
With
that's why we do see the success of these teams that are 9-7 or 10-6, whatever, or different nowadays. But because the pressure's off, right? So
yeah,
there's with Lamar Jackson, he's had two solid teams all
yeah,
season long, and perhaps that pressure he buckled the last two seasons. So yeah, at least he's staying healthy.
yeah.
He's definitely continuing to exceed my expectations. I really didn't think he would be as successful as he has been as continuously. So props to him. But yeah, he's got to come through in the playoffs. But you know what? Probably the best quarterback in history. I mean, I guess you have to. Yeah, Tom Brady's the best quarterback ever.
Ever.
The second best quarterback ever, I would say, is Peyton Manning. But you know
Hmm.
what? He struggled. He did not. He played well in one Super Bowl. The other Super Bowl with the Broncos, he did not win that game at
Yeah,
all. So I think yeah, he was susceptible to that pressure,
yeah,
and so it can happen to anybody.
yeah. So all right, so we are half an hour away from kickoff for the first game. um, I'm excited. I'm excited to see. I mean, look, at the end of the day, as long as they're good games that, like, there's no defining, we don't need another Packers Seahawks, ending to a game, the whole Sherman
Yeah,
ending to a game. uh, you know Hopefully both games are, like, the refs are left out of it. The
absolutely.
zebras have no part in the outcome of either game, because I think, and even in baseball, more times than not, you got an umpire's call. Let's look, like, 2 seasons ago. You had a perfect game, Detroit. You had a perfect game going with 2 outs in the ninth inning. A guy hits the ball, it gets thrown to first base, and he calls him safe. And the guy was clearly out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, you can't, it's a judgment call. So you can't freaking go, there's no appeal, there's no nothing. It just a trap, something like that is just like, you just hate to see that shit. And so I hope that there's none of that today.
Yeah.
In the
So
Super Bowl, I guess I don't really care, but to stop a team from going to the World Series or stop a team from going
yeah.
to the Super Bowl or to stop a pitcher from having a perfect game, which has only been done 13 times in all of baseball history, because you wanted to get involved and you wanted to you wanted to be the highlight. That shit just needs to. I mean, that's why boxing, honestly, that's why boxing faded the way it faded at the end of the 90s and into the 2000s, because you had these referees in boxing matches that were just injecting themselves into the fights.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, truth be told, I think that's why MMA, the UFC, took off the way it did, because everyone was just like so sick and tired of officials getting involved in boxing matches, that everyone just shut it out, and boxing has never recovered from that.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Well,
all right,
I'm hoping that well, we to bring it back political for a second, you mentioned the referee crews, and with this sweeping end to DEI programs, I'm curious what's going to happen to the requirement to have a female crew member like on every referee crew, if they're going to take a hit, because I wholeheartedly, and we know generally pro sports are naturally at a meritocracy, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the way it goes, because the referees are not scrutinized the same way, or they don't get money, I guess, based on
right, they get their salary.
They do get rated, but it certainly makes sense that they have forced diversity, whatever, in their crews. So we'll see. And I think what will certainly push for a change is if there is unnecessary crew and involvement in a game.
Well, the good thing is I think, at least for the NFL part, and that's really all I can speak to, because I don't think there's any female umpires in baseball, in Major League Baseball anyway. There might be some in the minor leagues, but I don't think there's any in Major League Baseball. But that's one thing I will say is there hasn't, that I'm aware of, there has not been any complaints about the female referees that have been in the NFL. In other words, I haven't heard of any stories where where a female referee has been involved in a controversial. Well, there hasn't been a female referee, but not a crew chief. But I haven't heard of any calls by any of the female zebras in an NFL game that have come into question. So for that part of it, I mean, at least they did it, but it seems like they kind of did it in a manner that made it like less significant. Like they made them line judges or something, where really the only calls that they're making are like offsides or or something like that.
My biggest problem with it is just because we know that the decision was made was for that, so it takes away from them and their achievement, in my opinion. I don't have any faith that they earn that position because of the policies that are in place. So that's what really bothers me.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
So do you think that there's anything to the rigging claims?
Man, I don't know. It's so hard because I kind of went back, looked just this season, at and I looked specifically at personal fouls called against a quarterback. So penalties that people hit a quarterback or something like that. Mahomes is not the number one quarterback to get personal fouls called for. He's number two. Justin Fields was actually number one. He had one more. The problem is if you look at when they were called, every single one of Patrick Mahomes was called at a crucial part of the game where they were down, and that gave them an automatic first down to continue a drive, resulting in them either taking the lead or solidifying that they were going to win the game. So it's hard to say that they were called intentionally to allow them to do that, but the statistics bear out that the ones that were called at very, very crucial moments that benefited strictly Kansas City in those games.
I think it very well is more likely just a possibility of the whole squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing. I think he's a big whiner and complainer about every time he gets touched.
Yeah.
Even though he's the one playing so aggressively, any quarterback that goes to run the ball and they take a hit, I'm sorry, you're a runner at that point.
I agree.
You don't get special protection at that time. The only thing I'm concerned about is like a blindside hit or something like that. Or when they accidentally graze their mask with their hand or something.
Right.
I'm sorry. Not, yeah.
They need. And I think the NFL needs to seriously take a look at that rule. Or how, not necessarily the rule, because I think the rule is clear. The rule is like intentional and forceful contact to the head and neck area. Leading with the crown of the helmet. Like those types of things. Those are very clear, but that's not how it's being enforced, particularly when it comes to quarterbacks. So I think they need to maybe do some retraining with the officiating crews on the applicable application of that penalty, more so than changing the rule. I think the rule is fine. And I think if they were throwing flags, how the rule is actually written, there would be much less flags.
That makes sense.
So I think that's the problem. The problem isn't necessarily the rule. It's the interpretation and application of the rule and the inconsistency of the application of the rule, because there is a lot of, from crew to crew, there's a ton of different variations of, I'll use the example again. You had the 2 hits on Mahomes last week where they were both called and they did not fit the rule, in my opinion, because they were not forceful contact to the head. They were not leaning with the crown of the helmet. Did his face mask get grazed on one of them? Yes. On the second one, the 2 defenders hit each other and he was just in between them.
Yeah.
And then you look at Jared Goff's hit where it was all of those things. It was, he led with the crown of the helmet. He hit him right in the face and drove him straight back.
I'll say I didn't have a problem with either one of those hits, but he got swept off his feet. That was pretty good.
He did. But there was no flag. And that was certainly more intent and vicious contact to the head and neck area than either one of the Mahomes calls.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the different crews. But as I understand, I think that there was some blowback from that game, and the officiating crews may have received some sort of punishment or, penalty.
Well, and it doesn't help that 3 plays later, Mahomes is a runner running the ball and, gets love tapped right before he goes out of bounds and then throws himself out of bounds like he was just like murdered.
Yeah.
And then fortunately on that one, they did not throw a flag, but it wouldn't have shocked me if they did. I guess that's where the problem comes in. I was more shocked that they didn't throw a flag.
Yeah.
Than if they had have thrown a flag.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Well, hopefully that doesn't occur today.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right. So 20 minutes until game time. Jimmy, get those chicken wings and and beer or whatever it is you're drinking, and let's go. Let's go watch some. Let's go watch and see who makes the Super Bowl this year.
That's right. Go Birds.
All right. We'll talk to y'all on Tuesday.
Later.
See ya.